That. Joining us now, the Godfather, Dick Saslaw, state senator from Fairfax. Godfather, good to have you with us, sir.
Good morning, John. Good to be here.
Now, it's always good to have you, Senator. A lot going on. I want to start with some of the priorities coming over to the Senate. Yesterday, the House passing what they call the Religious Freedom Bill. Some of your colleagues going ballistic, saying that this bill is a license to discriminate. What say you?
Well, I haven't seen that, and I assume it's pretty much the same. We've already exempted out, same as the Senate. I think we had a Senate bill similar to that. Religious organizations under federal law and generally court ruling are free to, on a religious basis to reject something. But with respect to governments and businesses, they're not. And, what this bill may be doing is setting some people up for a jail sentence. To give you an example, this may apply more to a government agency than the private sector. And I'm not an attorney, John, as you know.
Right.
But, if somebody refuses to issue a marriage license, he's pretty much going to meet the same fate. That he doesn't have to necessarily perform the ceremony. He's exempt from that. But if he or she doesn't issue that certificate, they're going to wind up in jail. And I'll tell you something else. That federal judge could hit Virginia or that municipality with one heck of a 6 or 7 figure fine.
Well, look, I want to get to a simple thing that people can really grasp, like issuing marriage licenses. And our position on this, we had Adam Eben on our show on Tuesday, Senator Eben, and our position from day one has been, look, if you're a government official and you're paid by the taxpayers, you got to follow the rules. And if the rules say that as a clerk you have to issue a marriage license and you don't want to issue it, then you're derelict of duty of your job funded by the taxpayers. If you have a religious objection to that, you can't sleep at night, or it violates your religious beliefs. I understand that. I'm sensitive to that. Dick, I'm a practicing Catholic. I get all that, but then go get another job or step down or get
right.
reassigned. I mean,
you're right, John. You're perfectly right. Private sector, it's a strange phenomenon. First off, if I was one of those couples that had these, the problem of being waited on or something like that, obviously you're not going to go patronize somebody. You're not going to ask somebody to bake a wedding cake. I don't know of anybody who would. There might be a couple somewhere in the country, but generally speaking, if somebody, as opposed to you getting married, you certainly aren't going to patronize their business. But I think if they're open, it seems to me that if they're open for business, they would have a big problem, and here's why I say that. What happens if somebody refuses something? I go in, let's say that there was a couple, a same-sex couple, they go into a restaurant, they sit down, and the management refuses to wait. The people refuse to wait on them because we just, they don't believe in that. It seems to me that they got a legal problem there. Religious organizations are exempt. I'm not sure those open for commerce are.
They're not. I mean, look, it's different without a doubt, like you're saying, if you're in a private business. And, my position on that has been the opposite. If you're gay and if somebody's not comfortable serving you, I mean, just go somewhere else. I mean, why even get involved in this? It's a lot of nonsense to get the government involved. But I think if you're a government employee and you're paid by taxpayer dollars and you don't want to do your job, then I think you just can't stay in that job. You got to leave it.
Right? I'm not, I think that if you are a private business and you're open to the public, you pretty much, got to serve the public, or you're going to have you could run into some serious problems in government that passing laws like this aren't going to get you out of.
Right.
And I don't see this as any attack on religion. I think some people sometimes get overly sensitive.
Right.
But I remember, I'm old enough to remember the Loving case when it came down, and I remember the opposition. They said exactly the same things that you're hearing from some of these people over the gay marriage situation.
Right.
I mean, the wording, you could, if they placed them side by side, you couldn't tell whether they were talking about interracial marriages or gay marriage.
I just think that we're going down a very dangerous path here. And look, I'm a Catholic. I'm not in favor of gay marriage. It is what it is, though. It passed the Supreme Court. It is what it is, and I think a lot of these laws they're trying to make now are just on the back end. And I look at everything going on in Virginia and all the problems we have, and I'm just not sure this is an effective utilization of time. I got to be honest. So we'll see what plays out. Okay, Senator Louise Lucas, Democratic senator, part of your caucus in Portsmouth, taking your leadership to task the other day, breaking with your caucus on Justice Alston. Now she's gone back. She's going to vote no. But basically what she said is that you guys have not been open to her ideas. True or false?
I don't. That's not quite accurate. And part of this is my problem for probably not being more communicative. Excuse me. I've done a lot behind the scenes that has helped Louise Lucas out. Maybe my big problem was not going to discuss it with her. But I talked with other people in the caucus, and they didn't share her view of me. I wanted to make sure maybe this was the prevailing view, but it's not. So like I said, I mean, there's two things that are probably blatantly clear, not only through this, but past things. Number one, it's no state secret. I'm probably not the most sensitive person around. I plead guilty to that. The second thing is that this is not the first time Louise has, blown. I mean, it's happened before. And, I mean, she has a temper, and I'm probably insensitive. And but Louise and I are friends, and we're trying to get stuff worked out, and I think it will. Just these things happen from time to time.
Well, Senator,
you hope they don't go public like this, but it did.
Well, Senator, I think you're sensitive. I found your sensitive side, so I'm not sure about that. Maybe she's just not. Approached you in the right way. I think you're sensitive. I think if we were to ask your family, they'd say you're pretty sensitive.
Well, you might not want to do that.
All right. Well, we think you're sensitive, Dick. Okay, let's get
I appreciate it.
Let's get to another issue. Common sense. Chap Peterson really coming off the rails yesterday, being very upset that the Senate failed to pass his forfeiture bill. Look, this is a real issue. People are getting their stuff basically stolen, confiscated from federal and local and state authorities when they haven't even been convicted of a crime. And I thought he had pretty common sense legislation in the Senate to stop this practice, and it got beat. And, I mean, don't you feel this is an affront to people's basic civil liberties?
Well, let me tell you, this is more of a federal problem. And I'm not an attorney, so I'm at a disadvantage here. But this is more of a federal problem than it is a state problem. And it really needs to be resolved from the top down. And we, to a large degree, not totally, we probably mirror somewhat the federal statute. And often what's involved, it can be a violation of federal law. Again, I don't know. I listen to both sides. You listen to the prosecutors, you listen to the state police, you listen to the lawyers, both defense attorneys, civil libertarian types, as well as, like I said, prosecutors. And it's a problem, but that I'm not sure that that bill, at least the prosecutors think, would have created a bigger problem. And I think that's what happened. That's an area that I'm not an expert in. Granted, I have no doubt that there's probably been some abuses of that seizure law. Drag racing on the street. They confiscate your car. I mean, that started, I think, back in the 50s or 60s.
Look, it's this is a tough one for civil libertarians to have any sympathy for not passing.
No, I understand.
The Innocence Bill. I mean, it to be confiscating people's stuff and you can't get it back, and they're not even convicted of anything. I mean, we're going down a dangerous path, and there's a lot of people like me that look inside it, and this is now part of the funding mechanism for local, county, and state law enforcement agencies. I mean, they actually put this into their funding.
That, John, it should not be.
Absolutely not. All right,
it should not be connected with that.
At the end of the day, we can disagree on politics, but if you start stripping away basic Americans' basic civil liberties, Senator, you're really going down a dangerous path.
And like I said, I have no doubt. I mean, I'm at a disadvantage, not having ever dealt with that or not being a lawyer. It was a mixed bag on how the lawyers voted.
Right. All right, let's get to the House wanting to strip funding out of Planned Parenthood in Virginia. There's some other states that have done that, Ohio being one of them. How do you stand on this?
Well, I'm not in favor of that. First off, both federal and state law prohibit any state money from being used for the abortion process.
Right.
That's like, I've heard 3 to 4%, 5% of their total expenditures. The bulk of it is just general women's health. And, I mean, I don't see, apparently that whole thing that occurred last summer was a total fraud.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, they, by and large, on the whole, I guess, perform a pretty valuable service. And, I know people, disagree with, people being able to access the abortion process. I understand that. But that's a real scant minority of what Planned Parenthood does.
So
and that's why I have a problem with, why would you want to defund that? And, in fact, more than likely what you're going to do is drive up more abortions as a result.
Would you guys be able to amend it so that you strip any funding out for abortion?
State law has always prohibited, our money being used for that. And with Medicaid, it's gross fetal abnormalities, life of the mother, or incest.
Right.
So, I mean, we've always had those processes in there. And we pretty much conformed to the Hyde Amendment, many years ago. But to defund, I think we can put that. I think we'll get the money back in there. I just don't understand why why they wanted to do that. I understand what some of their supporters are pushing, but I just don't agree with that.
Well, they do. There's no question that Planned Parenthood has viable, valuable services to women's health, and I think we just have to separate the two things out.
Right. I mean, they do a ton of cancer screening.
They really do. I mean, they do. I mean, it's gotten a bad name. I understand it. The whole selling of fetal tissue and how those things came out. It's just all bad. And some of their leaders don't present themselves in the proper way.
That's often the case in many fields.
Yeah, and I interviewed their president the other day when I was in New Hampshire, and they're very defensive and they're very liberal and they're very left wing and they have an agenda, but I think it gets them off message, which Planned Parenthood was developed for protecting women's health issues, and that's what
Right.
they should be focused on. I think if they do that, it makes sense. Delegate Scott Lingenfelter yesterday got the constitutional convention bill through the House. What happens in the Senate? Is that?
I'd be surprised if it passed. And John, you know who's going to show up at that convention?
Who?
It's going to be the people on the far right and far left, and God only knows what that document's going to look like.
So you would not be in favor of opening up that can of worms?
No, I really would not.
Now, if that were to pass in the Senate with 21 Republicans, it could pass 21-19. That is possible. That doesn't have to be vetoed. That doesn't have to go to the governor's desk, right?
No, that does not. But keep in mind, there's probably more than just a few Republicans in there opposed to that.
All right. We'll see how it pans out. We're out of time. We want to thank the Godfather, State Senator, and the Senate Democratic Caucus Minority Leader Dick Saslaw for being with us. Senator, it's always an honor to have you on, sir.
Thank you for having me, John. Good talk.